Kim White and I'm a staff member here at Camden Council's Libraries. Together with Amber Hope from MacArthur Workplace Learning Program, we've developed a partnership to deliver informative talks to parents, carers and those who work with young people. Thank you for your support in attending tonight. Keep checking back on the library website and the MWLP website as we're hoping to provide details of further talks planned for school terms 3 and term 4 this year. Just some initial housekeeping. Toilets are located outside to the left along the walkway. We're also very grateful to welcome Sprouts Catering this evening, who have sponsored our talk with the provision of refreshments. And thank you to Leanne and David for that sponsorship. Moving on to our guest speaker. This evening we're fortunate to have Christina Ott from the Resilience Donor to speak to us about how we as adults who relate to young people can help to guide them to develop resilience. Christina will outline the concepts of the Resilience Donor and will be able to answer your questions towards the end. Please join with me in welcoming Christina to the Camden LGA.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sure you'll probably prefer to be on the couch watching TV, but I'm guessing that you're here because you have somebody or a few different young people that you care about and you want to help them. So, thank you from them. I guess I'm curious because I know we have a combination of different people here. So, who's here in the capacity of as a parent? And who's a teacher? Fall into a few categories. Mental health professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, nurses. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else here for another reason? We work with young people. Working with young people. Youth work. Awesome. My name's Christina, as Kim mentioned. I currently work in private practice on the north side of Sydney. I'm near Epping. I work with children, adolescents, and families, and I've also been trained in the Resilience Donut. Hands up who's heard of the Resilience Donut before today? A few of you. Okay, good. When I first heard about the Resilience Donut, I was extremely disappointed when I found out that it wasn't actually a donut. I don't know if anyone else gets upset about that, but for me, I'm all about the food, and we should probably have organized to have donuts here today. I'm really sorry. Resilience. What does it mean? What does resilience mean? Does it mean strength? Sorry?
Oh, so this will classify this type of strength.
A type of strength, yeah. Anyone else?
Probably the ability to be flexible and adaptable and face whatever challenges come your way.
Flexible, adaptable, to be able to face any challenges that come your way. Beautiful. Resilience is the happy knack of being able to bungee jump through the pitfalls of life. Good old Australian psychologist. I've run this workshop with many children, year 5 and year 6-year-olds. And year 6s, I said. When I'm running this workshop and I talk to them about bungee jumping, I ask them how they would feel if they were standing on the top of a cliff and they were about to bungee jump. Oh, I know that. I would be terrified. I would be terrified. I said, oh, and what would your face look like, you know? And they're like, oh, and they have this horrible face on. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And I said, life is like that sometimes. Life isn't interesting if it's not like that sometimes. Life is hard. Life is scary. And you sometimes have to do scary things like do public speaking. But resilience is means you're able to get through such things. Resilience is the bungee cord that allows you to bounce back. And when you bounce back stronger and you go forward. As a parent, I would imagine, and in my experience in working with many parents, you want to look after your child and you want to protect protect your child from pain, from difficulty. A little bit of adversity is good, because it teaches them how long that bungee cord is. It teaches them that they can bounce back, that they're not going to splat. Resilience is the universal capacity which allows a person, group, or community to prevent, minimize, or overcome the damaging effects of adversity. Resilience is not the absence of adversity. Resilience is the capacity of individuals to navigate their physical and social ecologies, to provide resources, as well as negotiate their access to families and communities who can culturally navigate for them. We need to be able to navigate and negotiate our social world so that we can get what we need, so that we can bounce back. It's not so simple to describe resilience, is it? It's quite complex. But it's interesting and it's fun. Resilience is not a genetic predisposition to thriving. It's not a personality trait. How do we get resilience? We build on it. We go through hard things. We come out stronger. As parents, as teachers, as people working with young people, we provide what I like to call the scaffolding. So we don't expect the child to build the house by themselves. But we also don't tell them, oh, don't worry, I'll build it for you. We provide the scaffolding so that they can build it themselves. And in building it, they build their self-esteem, because look at that, look what I just did. Yes, I did it with help, but look what I just did. Am I making sense thus far?
Yes. Yeah.
Put up your hands if you have questions as we go through, by the way. The resilience donut was born out of the strength-based framework. So there seems to be two different schools of thought in psychology. You can either look at a child from a pathology-based framework and you go, oh, look at the risk factors. Oh, there's domestic violence in the home. Oh, their parents are not very educated. Oh, they don't have much money. There's a history of drug abuse. Look at their friends. Have you seen their friends? It's terrible. That child doesn't have a hope. That child doesn't have a chance. We all fall into that every now and then. I know I have. And a lot of the research does research into what are the risk factors. What are the risk factors that will lead to a child not thriving? Divorce rates, that's on the increase. This is a risk factor. But then there's the strength-based research. And the strength-based research comes from a completely different angle. And the angle is, of all of the children who have all of those risk factors, of all of the children who struggle with all of those external forces that are making their life look almost impossible, who are the ones who are thriving? How are the ones who have all the risk factors doing well? We want to know about them. What's making them resilient? What's making them push through? And that's where the resilience donut was born out of. That type of research. In 1995, Edith Rothberg did a huge study. It's an international resilience project, and it was almost 700 children she looked at, internationally, across different countries in Europe, Asia, America. And she looked at all of those children who were considered in the high-risk category, and what was it that enabled them to push through, to be resilient? What protected them? What were the protecting factors? So instead of trying to minimize the risk factors, so instead of trying to solve the world, which I don't know, but to me that just sounds incredibly impossible, they want to look at what are the protective factors that buffer the effects of being in the high-risk category so that individuals can go on to live that happy and successful life. Strength-based. So we're going to look at the resilience donut. I gave you a seminar card, and on the seminar card you have a picture can paint my nails. I can do well at school. So you're noticing that those three combined make up how we look at ourselves, how we view ourselves. The external factors feed into those internal factors. We can't affect the internal factors directly. We can affect the external factors. So that's what we're going to look at today. So I want you to think of a child. Now it may be your own child. It may be a child that you're working with. Maybe a child that you're teaching. It may be a child that you're related to, maybe a nephew or a niece. Think of a child, perhaps a child that you're worried about. Does everyone have someone in mind? Yeah? Okay. We're going to go through the resilience donut factor by factor. And by each factor, I'm going to stop, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to score that particular child on each factor. Does everyone have a pen or a pencil or something to write with? No? Can somebody please lend this lovely young lady a pen or a pencil? Does anyone have any questions about how this came about, research-wise? Does that make sense? Now, for all of you who are doing this on one of your own children, this one might be a little bit tough for you to score. Try to think of it from the child's perspective. And we're doing it first, and it's the hardest one. So I'm going to try and rip it off like a Band-Aid. We'll do it nice and snappy, and then we'll move on to the next one. And don't worry, there are 7 factors, so even if the child doesn't score very highly on this one, you still got 6. You've got lots of backup in this. This is partly why I like it. Parent factor. You're going to score each of these factors on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 being the highest and the best, and 0 being the lowest and the most concerning. So to score a 10 on the parent factor, you need to have very straightforward, direct, open, and honest communication. The child needs to feel as though they can approach you about almost anything. So that would be a 10. Remember, we're scaling them, so it's not black and white. This is gray. Yes?
Can I just ask, is this like an average between 2 parents, where there are 2 parents?
The research actually shows that it only needs to be with 1 parent.
Okay, either one.
So it can be either one, exactly. So even if the parents are separated, or if the child doesn't have contact with one particular parent, it doesn't actually matter. So long as there is 1 parent who is like this. So a child can communicate and approach the parent. And the research shows that there actually needs to be a balance between discipline, authority, rules, structure, as well as love, affection, emotional connection. The research shows, like, to get a 0 on that score, you could have a parent who is extremely loving, extremely affectionate, very permissive, yes, honey, whatever you would like. Maybe the child can really communicate with that parent, but the parent actually has no discipline and no rules for that child, and that child just runs amok. That actually scores a 0, even though it's a very loving relationship. On the flip side, it also scores a 0 if you're all full of discipline and boundaries and rules, and the child's very clear about what they can and can't do, but they don't feel loved, and they don't feel that nurturing. So the research showed an equal balance between the 2. And what's equally interesting, for me in particular, is that if you increase the discipline, so working with children with oppositional defiance disorders, if you increase the discipline, you have to then increase the love. They need to balance. So the positive emotional connection is important as well. So could you please score that?
Can I say 7 sectors, but there's so many facets of each
Within
section.
each factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the key to it is that the child has boundaries, the child has structure, and the child also has a lot of love. Yes?
My struggle is, I think we deliver all the things, but the child's personality means they can't communicate. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I score pretty bad on that too.
I guess the main
Because from her point of view, she can't communicate.
The good thing about the donut is it's quite fluid, so things do change. So your child may be in a state like in the teenage years where they're not actually communicating with you. And it's not necessarily anything to do with you. But they just are not in that place where they can communicate with you. So at the moment, in this period in their life, the parent factor isn't very
Oh,
strong.
she's always been like that.
But does that make sense?
Yeah.
It is a fluid thing, and your strengths in the donut will change. This stuff will make more sense as I go on. But I'm sorry, sir, did that actually answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. But then I asked from your last comment, when do we really fill this in? Now or later or both?
No, now.
Okay.
Now.
Okay. You see my question, though. You understand the reason for my question. You just said this will all make sense as we go on. Well, then why am I filling this in now?
The fluidity of it. The fact that the donut, the whole concept moves and changes. That's what will make sense. The factor, not. That's why I went back to you and I said, did I answer the question about the factor? Yes? Okay. Does anyone else feel a little bit confused about the discipline and love balance? Yeah? Okay. So just to be extra clear, to receive a 10 on this, the child has boundaries and structure, they feel loved, and they feel as though they can come to you and talk to you about things if they needed to. Yeah? We all scored it? The skill factor. Now, the person who developed this donut is Lynn Worsley, and she's actually the director of the private practice I work at. I argued with her about what this should be called. I actually think this factor should be called the yes factor. I know, I'm a bit of a dork. But anyway, so you know that feeling when you've been training for a particular sport, right? Let's say for me it was netball. In the beginning, I was absolutely shocking at this sport. But I really wanted to do well because, you know, the popular girls were really good at netball and I wanted to be part of it. So I would train and I would practice. And I would bounce that ball off the brick wall at home and I would practice. And I ended up doing really, really well. And I got that feeling, yes, I did it. For a child to score 10 on this, they need to have worked really, really hard and achieved it to a good level. It doesn't have to be state, national, sporting team. It doesn't even need to be a sport. But it needs to be something that they have achieved to a good level. So it might be maths, it might be English, it might be dancing, a skill. To get a 0 on this factor, the child either doesn't do well at anything, or they do so well at absolutely everything, but it takes no effort. Everything they touch turns to gold. And so they don't get that feeling like, yes, I did it. I worked really hard. I went through adversity, and I achieved it.
Can I just ask, when you said that they have really achieved something, can you say compared to what they were at the beginning, if it's an achievement for them?
For
Do they
them.
score really well?
Yes, for them. So if they get that feeling like,
Yes.
yes, I did it. See, shouldn't it have been called the yes factor? Just my opinion. Others who are significant to the individual value the skill. Oh, it's further heightened when, you know, if the boy's a rugby player and he's done well at rugby and then dad's really into rugby and dad goes, oh yeah, well done, you know? That makes it heightened. All scored?
Do you want us to just pick one skill to do this score on? Or should we be looking at overall things they're doing and how they're achieving in that, all those things?
and they have a real sense like I'm part of that family. It's almost like a gang, you know. They also feel appreciated as part of that family, so they probably do quite a bit of, you know, the extended family get-togethers, barbecues, and there's a real sense of, I'm part of it. I'm connected. I belong here. These are my people. Yeah? The education factor. It's funny, when I do this with kids and I throw the education factor over, because I cut them all on the floor and then I hide the factors and I turn it over and they're all excited. And when I show them the education factor, I say, so what do you think that means? What would you guess? And they go, oh, it means you're really smart. It means you're really good at school. It's not actually that. It's whether there is a teacher or an adult at the school who they feel they have a real connection with. I don't know if you guys have any memories from your primary school or high school days where you had a teacher who really cared about you, who really believed in you, who pulled you aside and said, hey, come on, you can do better than that. You know those adults in your life who you just feel valued you? Sense of belonging? The resilience donut, I'm telling you, it's all about connection. Human connection. And in today's day and age, there is just not enough of it. It can also be extracurricular activities, so the child's very involved in the school, feels very much part of the school. They're known for being on a soccer team, or they're known for being on a football team, or they're known for in debating, and they're really connected with the school, and they have that sense of community with the school. Peer factor. Okay, so the peer factor refers to the child's friends. So a 0 on this score, on this factor, would mean that they have either no friends at all, or they have lots of friends, but they have to listen to the friends all the time, and they can't express themselves. So you know the child who just kind of goes along with the group? Like, oh yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, that's okay, we'll do that. And they're scared. They're petrified by the group. They're so worried that no one's going to like them that they're just yes all the time. A 10 on this factor would mean that the child has friends, fights with friends, gets involved in arguments, and then resolves them. They're part of the group. So when your child comes home and goes, oh my gosh, I fought with Emily again, and just being such pain, and then we did this, and then she said this, and then did you hear what Melissa said? Yeah? Great peer factor. She's really in there. She's really involved. Yes, they're fighting, but that's great. This is the world. We fight. But how do we get through it? We work through it. We go through the adversity, we come out stronger in the end. So when your kid comes home, and they're talking about this argument that they had with a friend, oh, really? Oh, that's not a nice thing to say. Then what did you say? Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This is a disaster. What are you going to do? You're going to say that. Oh, okay. And then what are you going to say? And how are you going to do that? might be involved in something in the community, like a community sporting team, a youth group. They might be involved with some kind of church or some kind of religious affiliation, crafts, scouts maybe. And they feel part of that. They feel connected with that. Another thing is they might feel really part of their suburb. I don't know how common this is really in Sydney anymore, but when I give talks in the country towns, this is very common. And it's like you're feeling part of the community because when you wake up on a Saturday morning and you go down to your local baker, you know the lady behind the counter. And then you go to the news agency and you know the young teenager who works behind there. And you go to them and, oh, and how's your mom? And oh, how's your sister? And you know that sense of belonging within the community. In Sydney, it's usually more the sporting clubs or the religious groups or whatever. It can also be family friends as well. So, you know, the parents, have lots of other parents' friends, and they all have kids, and all the kids grow up together, and maybe they all live on the same street, or they all live nearby, and they meet up on Saturdays for sport or whatever. The last factor, the money factor. So when I ask the kids, what do you think it means? It means you're really, really rich. And I asked them, oh, what about Britney Spears? You know when she shaved her head? I said, do you think she's very resilient? Well, even her bounce back wasn't much of a bounce, was it? It felt a little bad for the girl. So anyway, we were talking about the money factor. And basically the research shows that if you look on a bell curve, the children who are up on the end where they have so much money that it's growing on the tree outside, their resilience is low. And at the beginning of the bell curve where they're very, very poor and they can barely put, you know, food on the table and get clothes clean and so forth, they also have very low resilience. What they found, the top of the bell curve was the middle class, the middle income earners. And when this donut was developed for children, it was really clear that to be high on the money factor, the child needs to know how to earn it, so what they can do to earn that money. So that may be by doing chores around the house, or it may be by getting their first job. It may be by mowing the lawn for their Uncle Joe. So they know how to earn the money. That's one thing. The other thing is they know how to save. Where a lot of the kids laugh and they go, yeah, I'm not very strong on that factor. They need to know how to earn it. They need to know how to save it. So when a child is involved in fishing, for example, and then he does extra jobs as a news agent to earn more money so that he can save up for a better fishing rod, and then he buys that fishing rod, he gets the yes factor again, because look what he's just achieved. He's been able to save. He's been able to earn first, and then he's been able to save so that he can get what he wants. I am capable. I can do this. Hard work is valued. It's valued because then you get end up with a new fishing rod. The resilience donut is about strengths. And so if you're looking at your donut and it hasn't got very high scores, it honestly doesn't matter. The number doesn't count. The only reason why you use the number is to look at the top three. So even if your top three are all 5s, it's irrelevant. Top three. I want you to circle the top three factors, and ignore the rest.
You mean the top highest ones?
Highest ones.
Oh. You don't mean the top across the top?
No. The top three, the highest scores. Highest scoring. feel the strongest to you. Now I'd like you to turn to the person next to you. I'd like you to get into pairs. And I'd like you to talk about this child in terms of their strengths. Don't tell any of the horror stories, none of the war stories, none of the risk factors. I want you to be very focused on discussing purely their strengths. So talk about their top three and how those are strengths and give examples. to activate the internal beliefs. So the I have, I am, and I can. And the way that we do that is by combining the three. Combining the three into an activity, combining the three in something the child does. And by combining three, you ask why three? By combining three, it forces us to have at least one relational area. Relationship is very important, and what often happens is that a child can score high on the money factor and high on the skill factor, though neither of those necessarily are relational. So by forcing the third, we bring in a relational component, a connection maybe with a parent, a connection maybe with a teacher, a connection with an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, brother, something. The internal dialogue or monologue within a child, I have, I am, I can, is most likely to be activated when there are three external forces. If one thing is going well in a child's life, they can just go, oh yeah, but that's just one thing. If two things are going well in a child's life, they'll go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. If three things are going well and they're constantly activated by an experience, that's when the child will start to click, hey, wait a minute. I do have friends. I am loved. And I can play soccer. And they start to feel good about themselves. And combining the three is a bit of a challenge for some children more than others. So I think we're going to do this in baby steps. I'll get you guys to get into pairs again. This time I want you to talk about how two of those three combine. You might find that two of those three are already being combined in the child's life. So start with that. Just look at combining two of those three.
Two of the positives.
Two of the highest scoring factors. the most challenging